Alright everyone, so today I'm going to be going briefly over Eclipse, which this probably won't be brief because every video I say I'm going to make brief ends up being like forever. But anyways, I'm going to tell you guys some of the stuff about Eclipse because in this Java tutorial series I'm going to be using Eclipse. I'm remaking this, by the way, for anyone who saw my old Java videos because the old ones were terrible and oh my god, I feel bad for every single one of you who ever watched it. My job now is actually a Java programmer, and I can tell you from experience that when people when they do things that aren't proper or the norm, it makes things very difficult for both you as someone maintaining their code, which is mostly what a programmer does, and the person who actually writes it, because if you're not consistent, things become more difficult for you as well, especially when you start reading other people's code. So I want to go over I want to focus in this series how to really be normal with your code. I guess that's the best way to say it. It's not the best way to say it. The best way I can think of saying it at the moment is the normal way of doing things, but you want to do it by convention. That's the word that all the smart people use, convention. Remember that. Anyways, so first thing with Eclipse is that you want to get familiar with these two bars here, your toolbar, and then I don't know what you would call this, your utility bar, I guess. Yeah. Anyways, so under your file tab, you're going to have new, open file, close, close all, so forth. New will just simply allow you to open up new things, like a new Java project, a new general project, packages, classes, interfaces, enumerations, annotations, source folders, and all that kind of stuff. If you don't know what these words mean, don't worry, it's gibberish to you at the moment, and when we actually get into programming, it'll make so much more sense to you, and you'll actually enjoy this. Trust me, it's not as complicated as it sounds, but you know, it's like math. If you made it into pre-calculus, for example, I remember my pre-calculus 1 class because I'm still in it, and I started it this quarter, which is almost over, thank God. And like, when you get into logarithms and they just start saying all this stuff about x's and stuff, if you had have been like hearing that in elementary school, you would have cried. Okay, so it's okay if you feel that way right now, because this is like pre-calculus and you're like learning multiplication tables, so don't worry. Refresh simply just refreshes files. Importing will allow you to import files. Export. Restart will restart stuff, and switch workspace will switch the location in which you're actually reading files from. Edit will allow you to undo and redo, copy and paste stuff throughout your projects and your files. Source will allow you to do a lot of things like commenting, add comment block, or add block comment, remove block comment, toggle comment, all that kind of stuff. Very important, mainly because if you do not document your code, I can say this from experience, you're going to want to go to the person's house who did not document the code and do unspeakable things to them with a chainsaw, because it's terrible when you do not document your code. And for shame on you if you make it through my Java tutorials and do not comment your code, because I'm going to disown you. It's a terrible, terrible thing. You should always document your code no matter what. Next, refactor. Refactoring essentially is changing something like a variable name or some sort of pattern throughout your entire program, project, or just simply one file. So for an example, if you make a variable at the top of a file and it's used everywhere else, but the name you find isn't really that related to what the variable actually represents, and you want to rename it, you want to refactor it, because otherwise you're going to have to go through the entire file yourself, renaming each and every individual reference to that variable, which becomes very, very boring in the end, and you just don't want to do it. There's also some other stuff like convert local variable to field, anonymous class to nested, all this kind of stuff. Extract superclass, extract interface, migrate jar file, create a script, apply a script, history, navigate will allow you to do a lot of things. Specifically, the fun one is show in, because you can look at your history, you can look at things in your navigator and your project explorer, or even in Git repositories, which, if you don't know what Git repositories are, they're awesome, amazing tools that allow you to have your code like everywhere. And if you're like, oh, I just can use Dropbox to like host my files, no, don't ever use Dropbox. I can also say that from experience. Terrible, terrible decision. Underneath search, you basically just have these things like file, which will allow you to search for files containing certain types of text, case sensitive or regular expressions and stuff like that. And this is also very helpful because if you have an error that prints out something like ambiguous dates error, then you want to search for it because maybe it's not really that ambiguous and maybe you actually only say it once in one of your files and you just don't have to go looking through every single one of your files to see where that error occurred. If you just search for it, you'll find it through using this type of GUI, or I guess feature of Eclipse. Project, you can open and close your projects. There's not really much to it. Build all will allow you to actually compile all of it. Generate Java doc again, document your code. Sweet Jesus, you can't do that too few times. You can't overdo it, I guess. Or you can't do it too few times. My bad, that was terrible. You can't really like do it too much, I guess, unless you're just like writing a novel. Which would only really be appropriate if you're like doing something in like C and it's like some sort of graphics algorithm, because that would be terrible to look at and not have anything commented. Run will simply run the function, or run the program. Debug will allow you to debug it, and there's actually a nice feature of Eclipse which things like NetBeans do not have, which will allow you to debug and run your code at the same time. Oh. Run through your history, run as a different application, change the configurations of how it runs, all that kind of fun stuff, making breakpoints in your program. Window will simply allow you to make new windows and stuff like that. Nothing really that interesting in it. You can change your preferences, which there's not a lot to really do in here. I pretty much just leave everything as the default. You should be fine. And then help will of course teach you how to use Eclipse in much more detailed ways than I do. That's pretty much it. If you guys want to watch the rest of the Java videos, feel free, because the other ones will actually contain code. If you like this video for whatever reason, press the like button. If you want to see my future videos, press subscribe. And I will be seeing you guys later. Thanks for watching.